Shri Ram Saki Bhagavan Ki Jai. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskrityam Devam Saraswati Vyasam Tato Jayam Nashadapayasvadeshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Bhakti Bhavati Nasti. Before reciting the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is the meat of prophets, one should offer respectful obeisances unto the personality of Godhead, Narayan, unto Narayana, the supremest human being, unto Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, and unto Srila Vyasadeva, the author. By regular attendance in classes on the Bhagavatam and by rendering service to the bearded Brahmi, all those troublesome to the heart is almost completely destroyed, and love and service unto the personality of Godhead who is praised with the transcendental song is established as a irrevocable fact. Hare Krishna. Good morning. Today we're covering 28, 39, chapter 22. How do you like Six Goswami's new asana? Very nice. You did nice? No, I know it yesterday. Yeah. Yeah, a little bit more elevated, which is proper, a part of parampara. So Srila Prabhupada, Bhaktisiddhanta, Guru Kishore, Bhakti Vinod, Jagannadas, Babaji, they don't feel like awkward sitting in a high position. So we thank the devotee whoever that idea was. Kalindi. Oh. Hare Krishna. She knows best.
Well, something amazing happened during the morning walk today. For a moment, I thought heart has expanded and showing his mystic cities. I kid you not, we're like walking, you know, the street, the last stretch where Advaita Prabhu lives. So it's on the other side, a little bit earlier. There was a gentleman that came out, putting his recital on. Same shirt, same pajamas. I said, Hari, come to the front. I said, good morning, sir. Just look at this. What are the odds? And he looked. Are they spying on me? I said, it's going to be another beautiful day, the sunshine state. Said, sure, it looks like that way. Yes.
We were already talking about his shirt though before the walk, which made it even more interesting.
Oh yeah, we're just talking. Yeah, we're talking about how early on in the movement everybody was wearing yellow. All the boys and girls were wearing yellow. It's a yellow phase of this time. The Gurukula and Gurukuli outfits all yellow. That. And but early on there was a sign, suspicious activity will be supported now that the streets there, those signs. So watch out, guys, down the road. You're gonna pull out on us. Freeze! Hands up. All right, those are the early morning Jumbo Walk adventures. Ryan likes it. Feel free to join us. Never a dull moment in a neighborhood that always sleeps. There's a neighborhood that never sleeps, and this neighborhood always sleeps. Jujabo. Okay, so we have 28 to 39. Yeah, we're gonna read and then I think we're gonna cover 32. 28 just not coming. Overjoyed to know of his arrival, his subjects came. Who are they talking about? It was a wrap up. Yeah. Finally got married a daughter. It was a little arm twister. You gotta take her. You're a great man. She's great too. So it was arranged. Now he's coming back. Overjoyed to know of his arrival, his subjects, whose subjects, Bible Romana subject, came forth from Brahmavarta to greet their returning Lord with songs, prayers, and musical instruments. We can take turns.
The city of Barhishmati.
Yeah, it's not basmati rice. It's Barhishmati.
Rich in all kinds of wealth, was so called because Lord Vishnu's hair dropped there from his body when he manifested himself as Lord Boar. As he shook his body, this very hair fell and turned into blades of evergreen kusha grass and kasha, another kind of grass used for mats, by means of which the sages worshipped Lord Vishnu after defeating the demons who had interfered with the performance of their sacrifices.
So the hair of the boar. How do you know?
Pushes and passions and worship God. The personality of God led this grace and Saint Prabhu terrestrial.
Having entered the city of Varishmanti, in which he had previously lived, Manu entered his palace, which was filled with an atmosphere that eradicated the three miseries of existence. Wow.
Emperor Swayambhuva enjoyed life with his wife and subjects and fulfilled his desires without being disturbed by unwanted principles contrary to the process of division. celestial musicians and their wives sang in chorus about the pure reputation of the emperor. And early in the morning, every day, he used to listen to pastimes of the supreme personality of Godhead with a loving heart.
Swayambhava was a saintly king, although absorbed in material happiness. He was not dragged to the lowest grade of life, for he always enjoys material happiness, a Krishna conscious atmosphere.
Consequently, although his duration of life gradually came to an end, his long life, consisting of a Manvantara era, was not spent in vain, since he ever engaged in hearing, contemplating, writing down, and chanting the pastimes of the Lord.
He passed his time to process several cycles of 4 ages, 71 times 4,212,000 years. Always thinking of Vasudeva and always engaged in knowledge regarding Vasudeva. Thus, he transcended the 3 destinations.
Therefore, O Vidur, how can persons completely under the shelter of Lord Krishna in devotional service be put into miseries pertaining to the body, the mind, nature, and other men and living creatures?
Well, why is the question asked by certain sages? He, Swayambhava, out of the compassion for all living entities, taught that the diverse sacred beauties of men in general and the different varnas and ashrams.
I have spoken to you of the wonderful character of Swayambhava, the original king, whose reputation is worthy of description. Please hear as I speak of the flourishing of his daughter, Devaki.
What a wonderful section. Any comments or questions on what we just read? Can you go back to 37?
Oh, yeah.
It's my read.
It's quite amazing how these verses kind of emphasize that your life is complete just by hearing, chanting the pastimes and the glories of the Lord. You don't need to desire anything else, actually, but liberation and you want to, gain more and more or whatever it is. So that's
Yeah, isn't that wonderful? You don't have to make any changes, external changes whatsoever. Stay in whatever situation you are, as Lord Chaitanya also instructed us. And just add Krishna. And what that means is manifested, exemplified here in the personality of a great saintly king, Swayambhava, who not only actually lived that, but taught that, how to do it. We see. How can persons, so therefore, what we do that? This is a different conversation. How can a person completely under the shelter of Lord Krishna in devotional service be put into miseries? We see that example of in the 2nd chapter of the Gita, how devotees like a lotus flower, we talked about that last night, is in this world, but he acts with understanding that he is not of it. It is very important that we develop that consciousness. And we won't be able to develop that consciousness for as long as we are spiritually sick. And that also is explained in the 2nd chapter towards the end when Krishna tells Arjuna about pathology. Are you familiar with pneumatology? About spiritual sickness? We'll pull it up. Actually, go back to 34. Question for review 34. So he was, although absorbed in material happiness, he was not dragged to the lowest grade of life. For he always enjoyed his material happiness in Krishna conscious atmosphere. Do you find this contradictory? Okay, so how is not material happiness in Krishna conscious atmosphere? Or how I thought it would be spiritual happiness. Yes.
I found when I was doing boga runs for the Harmony Collective, Deva Madhava had said that you could take a few things, basically. And, anyways, it's a long story. But I had some material happiness, because when we went to go get donations from Whole Foods, some of the dresses I might wear around, came from there, and they were in my size. And I was enjoying this material happiness, even though I didn't want to fully receive it, but I was like, Bonnie, did you just give me a dress? That's like $88. What's going on? So it's the Krishna conscious atmosphere. I was going to get vegetables and going to get all these other things, give all of the rest to the temple, of course, most of the temple. But then there's this beautiful dress, and I was like, well, I suddenly have it. It's my size, So this is what I'm thinking. Maybe there is material happiness, or they can be all together,
But, okay, so I still want to differentiate. Yeah, there will be you taking that for Krishna. I don't think it will be in category of material happiness. There will just be you depending on Krishna and receiving that in Krishna consciousness as something that is spiritual. Like once I asked Prabhupada, that doorknob, I think it was in Detroit, doorknob, is it spiritual or material?
Everything spiritual.
And Prabhupada said, it's funny. He said, it is spiritual as long as I'm touching it. As long as I'm touching it. So what does that mean?
Well, just like the Lord touches anything the Lord touches, even with his sight, becomes spiritual.
Mm-hmm.
It's a consciousness, not a material. Because
Prabhupada is in the right consciousness. And you also, as you're touching that dress, can be in the right consciousness. So as long as you're touching anything in the right consciousness, it's spiritual. Right? So I'm still waiting for the explanation of this particular. Okay, yeah, Gopal, it seems like.
I have a question.
Yes.
Recently, in a few days, in the word for word, it said Kriya Midi, and in the translation, it said Kriyasta. So that's a similar situation.
Drops mic.
Anything else on this?
Walks up.
Falls back in the corner. Oh, yes, good.
So the question is, absorption object to the material happiness, right? At the same time, I being dragged down, and Krishna consciousness at the same time. Well, I think Krishna is a good example. We can live very happily, enjoy this lavish prasadam, wonderful association, wonderful kirtans and dancing, and not be. You here in the material world, you enjoy, you could say, food, which is material, but because it's offered to the Lord, because everything is used for the Lord, it's a win-win.
Mm-hmm. Still, I wouldn't call it material happiness for being absorbed in such, because it was not in Krishna conscious atmosphere, and obviously he was not affected by it. Kavi had a hand earlier. Do you mind? It's okay if you don't find an answer.
He's experiencing that material happiness with Krishna instead of in separation from himself.
Okay, so again, that will be called spiritual happiness, because it's with Krishna. But here it's a material, absorbed material happiness. I wouldn't call it that way. Yes.
Anytime we do something for Krishna in the material world, it's their nullified. What's the word? Like
Cancel.
No, like it's turned to a positive.
Transformed.
It's transformed. So when you don't add Krishna in the mix, it could be just dead matter.
Yeah.
When you add Krishna in the mix, then things get a little dancey. You know what I mean?
That all stands. Stands. Adding that line in front of the zeros, that all stands.
Yeah.
Okay. Another. And then we'll go.
One perspective.
Mm-hmm.
Prabhupada gave a definition of devotee. So devotee means the mind.
Yes.
So externally, Same activities can look the same. You load in a truck or cook, you go out there. There's plenty of other vendors doing the same thing. But it's the consciousness.
Yes. Yeah, these are all beautiful answers. Did you have your hand up earlier? Yes, please. I'm sorry.
Well, it's just that I think this verse talks of so-called material happiness. Like, for example, getting married is so-called material happiness, and dancing to like mundane music is so-called material happiness, or having a big house and all these goals are so-called material happiness. But you can still, like, you can enjoy these things, because I know you're saying like, oh, but it's spiritual, but they're so-called material, right? They're so-called material, but they can be done in a Krishna conscious atmosphere, and then maybe, yes, it makes it spiritual, or maybe it doesn't. Maybe it's just there. Maybe you're just in it, and maybe you're fully engaged in it, but you have no attachment for it.
So all the answers, I like this one the most. But all of you also contributed very nicely. Thank you. And we almost didn't hear it. Sorry.
You would have missed that one.
Yeah, I'll tell you the story of King Janaka that illustrates this point. He was also a saintly king, and he had a minister who asked him, how is it that you are surrounded and absorbed in this so-called material happiness, and you're still so Krishna conscious? You're surrounded with beautiful wife and so many servants, so much opulence and palatial buildings, gold, furniture, silk, and just topmost opulence, and still you're not affected by it. One minister asked him in public, and then Janaka gave him a very shocking answer. He said, guards, get this man, get him right now, put him in the dungeon, lock him up. And especially the minister, what did I do? And so much so that the guards were kind of taking a second take on king's order. But I said, no, lock him. So they locked him up and said, tomorrow, and it was announced, tomorrow we're gonna decapitate him. Behead. That's a very, very unusual decision on the side of a king. So everybody was pleading, this is one of your favorite ministers, please save him. I said, okay, I'll give him one chance. Tomorrow you bring him up, and we'll have 2 guards on each side with very short, very sharp, machetes or swords, very sharp swords on each side. And he will have a big pot of water all the way to the top, no lid. And he's going to walk all around. And if even one drop comes from the pot, instruction was chop his head off. So everybody was like, oh, he's done. He's done, he's finished. But this is his only chance, so he took it. The minister took it with great anxiety and confusion and what's happening to me. So he was walking all day, all around. And actually he managed to come back with not a single drop spilled. And King was very happy to see him. He said, oh, my dear minister, you made it. Please come, put the pot down, come, sit next to me. How was your day? What did you saw? Tell me. Did you saw the beautiful parks with the beautiful trees and chirping birds? And all the children playing? Did you saw the beautiful palatial buildings that you walked through? Tell me, how was your day? And he said, no. Because my whole entire consciousness was just so absorbed, so fixed in this pot, and not to drop a single drop. And then he said, And the king told him, this is exactly how I feel every day. The breath of death. I can feel his breathing on my neck, and at any moment, I can join the other side, across the afterlife. Then Minister realized this whole thing was the king's answer to him, and how he managed to be Krishna. This is called memento mori. Yeah, memento mori. Yeah. And remember that. This is what Caesar also. Caesar had a servant who would whisper to him, and all these conquerors and all these great successes worldwide. Memento mori. Remember that. Don't get carried away. Don't let this so-called success, this so-called material happiness go to your head. Stay humble, because that can happen at any moment. So understanding this, our utter insignificance and a universal scale of things, is the first really step in a deeper understanding of Krishna consciousness, and really enjoying life in Krishna conscious atmosphere. Has to be that buffer. Has to be that point of tyaga, of detachment. Otherwise, we're cooking with our hands in a fire again. We're just getting burned in the process. So cook, but don't get cooked in the process. This is the beauty of Krishna consciousness. Okay, so that's the story. We'll go up to 32 and cover report and see what's there. Bharishmatim namavihu.
Bharishmatim namavihu.
Bharishmatim namavihu. Bharishmatim namavihu. Yam nidrishya samavasa. Yam nidrishya samavasa. Yam nidrishya samavasa. Yasyam pravishto bhavanam. Yasyam pravishto bhavanam. Yasyam pravishto bhavanam. Tapatraya vinashanam. Tapatraya vinashanam. Tapatraya vinashanam.
Bharishmatim namavihu.
Bharishmatim namavihu. Yam nidrishya samavasa.
Tasyam pravishto bhavanam.
Tasyam pravishto bhavanam. Tapatraya vinashanam.
Bharishmatim namavihu.
Bharishmatim namavihu.
Yam nidrishya samavasa.
Yam nidrishya samavasa.
Tasyam pravishto bhavanam.
Tasyam pravishto bhavanam. Tapatraya
Bharishmatim namavihu.
Bharishmatim namavihu.
Yam narvishya samavasat. Tasyam pravisto bhavanam. Tapatraya vinashanam. Speak now, forever will be peace.
Okay, word by word, all together. Bharishmatim
the city of Vishmati, Rama, Neni, Vindu, the very powerful Swayambhavu Manu, Ram, which Nirvishya having entered, Samavasa, having inhabited previously, Dasyam in their city, Pravisa entered, Bhavanam, the palace, Gavadraya, threefold miseries, Vyashtam.
Having entered the city of Barhishmati, in which he had previously lived, Manu entered his palace, which was built with an atmosphere that eradicated the three miseries of material existence. Any volunteers for purple? Yes.
The material world or material existential life is filled with threefold miseries. Miseries pertaining to the body and mind, miseries pertaining to natural disturbances, and miseries inflicted by other living entities. Human society is meant to create a spiritual atmosphere by spreading the spirit of Krishna consciousness. The miseries of material existence cannot affect the status of Krishna consciousness. It is not that the miseries of the material world completely vanish when one takes to Krishna consciousness, but for one who is Krishna conscious, the miseries of material existence has no effect. We cannot stop the miseries of the material atmosphere, but Krishna consciousness is the antiseptic method to protect us from being affected by the miseries of material existence. For a Krishna conscious person, both living in heaven and living in hell are equal. How Swayambhuva Manu created an atmosphere wherein he was not affected by material miseries is explained in the following verses.
So we kind of went backwards. We explained how. So how he was not affected, we did that. But it's another beautiful purport relating to Krishna consciousness, the antiseptic. Om Jnana Timirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshur Tasmai Shri Gurave. And as you saw, for devotee, it doesn't matter. Auspicious, inauspicious, heaven or hell, as long as Sundari pointed out earlier, as we can remember a lotus-eyed Lord, it's good. What's the extreme example of devotees who are ready to go to hell for Krishna's sake?
Oh, please.
What happened?
Krishna had a headache.
Krishna had a headache.
Krishna had a headache, and I don't know all the details so well, but he had a headache, and I think Narada Muni was nearby, and Narada Muni was asked, okay, what can cure a headache? And he was saying the dust of the lotus feet of my devotees, and then I believe Narada Muni went to Dwarka, and he asked all the Dwarka Vasis, correct me if I'm wrong, he was asking all of them if any of them would be willing to give some of the dust of their feet, and all of them were saying, no way, we would go to hell, there's no way we would ever commit such an offense. And then eventually he went to Vrindavan and he was asking the gopis if they would, and without even a second thought, immediately they were scraping off the dust from their feet.
How many pounds you need?
They were giving everything they had, and then Narada Muni kind of looked at them with a funny expression, like he says, don't you think this is kind of offensive, like putting the dust of your feet on Krishna's head? And their mentality, the way they think is, maybe it's offensive, but if it's going to cure his headache, then we'll happily go to hell. And if us going to hell, if our misery is Krishna's pleasure, then our misery is our own pleasure.
It's the same sentiment Bhaktivinoda Thakur expresses in his poetry also. If my misery, it gives you happiness, then accept that as the greatest of pleasures. Who else exhibits this sentiment? You'll have parents, right? If you look at a mother, the situation and position of a mother, what does the mother go through?
Oh.
She goes through hell, yes, and back. But she transcends that hardship because of the love. So love or bhakti is what makes and transforms the experience. If you put the lenses, different lenses, And if you change your optics, then you will see everything in a different way. As you change the way you see things, the things you see, they change. We saw that last night, we talked about it too. So, Premanjana Churita Bhakti Vilochane, Santa Sadeva Hridayeshu Vilokayanti, Yachama Sundaram Achintya Gunasvarupam, Govindapan Purusham Samamvacham. The body perceives the world with different lenses, different optics. It perceives through the lenses of prema, love. So as you do that, then everything will change. Just like when you put orange glasses, everything is orange. With yellow glasses, even this yellow shirt is a little bit more yellow. So like that. And of course, we have also the optics of three gunas. If you put the optics of tamaguna, how are you going to proceed? Yeah, so this is what Krishna or Rajas or even Sattva Guna will be bounding. So this is what Krishna speaks, and he tells Arjuna, actually in several places throughout the Gita. He speaks about in 2nd chapter, he speaks again in the 4th chapter, Vita, Raga, Vaya, Krodha. This is the elements of spiritual sickness. This is the pneumopathology of the elements of spiritual disease. Vita, Raga, attachment. So Vita means who is free. And it explains the Atmarama, or the characteristic of Atmarama, a self-realized person. And Arjuna asked him, so how can I recognize a person who is self-realized? Like Swami Brahman, like King Janak, like many great devotees. How can I recognize? Remember at the 2nd chapter, how does he walk, how does he sit, how does he speak? And how can I recognize those things in me? On the reference, am I making any headway on this path? And then Krishna says, you can pull it up. We covered it last night. It's 2:57. He talks about being free from attachment, anger, and fear. These are the stumbling blocks. One who is not disturbed in mind even amidst the threefold miseries, or elated when there is happiness, and who is free from attachment, fear, and anger is called stage of a steady mind. So only in a steady mind you will perceive things as they are. If the mind is disturbed, it will be distorted. So being free from attachment, fear, and anger. These are all great stumbling blocks. In 410 also, again, same thing. Krishna says the same thing. Being free from attachment, fear, exactly the same thing. Again, attachment, fear, and anger, being fully absorbed in me, taking refuge in me. Many, many persons in the past become purified by knowledge of me, and thus they all attain transcendental love for me. So this is the antiseptic. What is the disease? You know, like when do you apply antiseptic? When there's a wound and some infection, right? When there's infection, then you apply antiseptic. So what is the infection? Attachment, fear, and anger. What is the antiseptic? Fully absorbed in Krishna, taking refuge in Krishna. And then he says, you're not the first one. Many, many have done that in the past. So he's reassuring. This is not just one-off experiment. It's working. There's a science behind it. Many, many have become purified. So you have infection, so you want to purify it. You want to clean it. You don't chop your arm off. They'll be rather impersonal. but you address what's infected. And in that way, we can all attain transcendental love for Krishna. In 1426, Krishna also again gives a very nice encouragement when he says that one who engages in full devotional service, unfailing in all circumstances, at once it transcends the modes of material nature and thus comes to the level of Brahma. So being engaged in devotional service, not failing in any circumstance, we can transcend. So what does that mean? What does that mean to you? Unfailing in all circumstances. Yeah.
Unmotivated, uninterrupted.
Unmotivated and uninterrupted. What does it happen in? I'm seeing that it's always, it gets interrupted all the time. When I'm tired, I gotta go to this. Seems like it's interrupted. When I'm between walking between the services, seems like it's interrupted. Yeah. Well, let's see if she has an idea. You have an idea of how? I hear you, but it seems like in reality, what are the chances that it becomes uninterrupted? Unmotivated, yes, we can work on. But we live in a world that's always interrupted. And therefore we fail in some circumstances. Can that be avoided?
I guess that's the practice of yoga, is always bringing the mind back to the focus point, back to pleasing Krishna. And so naturally, like you were saying, I don't really have an answer. I feel like that's a really good point that you made. I feel like it does get interrupted, but as long as we can keep bringing it back, going from one service to another. Sleeping can also be service. We need to rejuvenate our bodies and maintain our health so that we can actually function and see our bodies as Krishna's property. So we're obligated. We have to take care of ourselves or our bodies. And
can you use the mic for the online?
Oh, sorry. Yeah. Oh yeah, I was just saying we can always try to keep this meditation of pleasing Krishna naturally when life gets busy. Sometimes we forget, but just always trying to bring the mind back to the focus point of pleasing Krishna, and even things like sleeping, things that might seem material are actually not. They cannot be. They can be used in Krishna's service. Our bodies are Krishna's property. They were gifted to us, and they're like rentals. We're only temporarily borrowing them. So we have no right to abuse them or vandalize them. So we have to maintain them so we can actually function, be of value and service to others.
Don't vandalize your rentals, guys. Otherwise there will be some thieves. Yes.
I had a thought, unfailing in all circumstances. What verse comes to mind is the Bhagavad Gita verse about there's no loss or diminution. 240, because when you're engaged in devotional service, no matter how much or how little, even if there is some interruption or whatever, I feel like Krishna still counts it, and so in every case you're not a failure because you're still on the path. Yeah. So there's no loss.
There's no loss. It's just a matter of filling those gaps. And comes with the practice, guys. Comes with the practice. Practice makes perfect. Yes.
I think Alex is a good example.
Alex.
He's a good example in this verse. He remained in a pretty tough situation and he remained performing devotional service. I think that's more like that. No matter what your material situation is, you still perform devotional service.
That's one of the characteristics of devotional service. There's no impediment. There's no impediment. Really, there's no excuse not to. What is that the name of that brahmachari that didn't have nothing but in his mind, he built a road for Lord Chaitanya to walk on his toured South India. And the Lord was paid nicely. And Lord Chaitanya accepted another South Indian poor Brahmana. He didn't have no ingredients. But in his mind, he cooked most delicious sweet rice. Remember that example? And as you know, sweet rice is served chilled. So he collected all the best basmati, best milk, and best ingredients. In his mind, he wanted to see if it's chilled enough. So with his finger, he tried to see. And then he burned himself. And he saw it, and it was burned. Although he's done it in his mind, this is a psychosomatic mystery of devotional service. It affects, it's always mind over matter, as Adishanta. Your mind will bring about your success, and it can also bring about your demise, depending if we invite Krishna within our mind. Because our mind is like a fortress. And in that fortress, there's a princess that lives. That's the self. That's us. There's many dacoits and robbers ready to hijack that fort. And unless you invite Krishna in the fortress of your mind, the self will be compromised. So the Buddha is stay with Krishna. That is your shield, that is your beloved, that is our everything. And that's how it's unfailing. Yeah, we might get distracted, but we'll bring it back. Yes. Is that it?
I was planning to dig it, that's what she was saying, bringing it back.
Yeah. Breakfast is here or not? It is?
Yeah,
It's coming. Any other final comments? Of course, Alex.
That's a pretty good point. I wasn't even I was listening to you and also thinking of other stuff that's added to the verse too. So when you said, I was like, what? You know what I mean? But it is true because being in there was a lot of challenges, especially when it came to doing my japa, and staying focused and staying on that attentiveness. That's what you said. You sent me a message. It was about attentive japa. Isn't it like a sin to not have attentive japa or something?
It's a root cause of all other offenses.
Yeah.
Inattention.
And one thing I learned about all Vaishnavas in history, Vaishnavis, is that we overcome great obstacles. Right? Look at Jesus. Look at Nityananda Prabhu. Look at Haridas Thakur. Srila Prabhupada.
First manuscript was stolen. Typewriter was stolen.
Yeah, all these great examples of just their Krishna conscious path and them having to be challenged by Maya and them overcome that by staying like a rock in a hard spot, not moving, stubborn, like a bull.
Because they welcome those challenges as opportunities.
Yeah.
To do something about it.
What is it? The verse in the Bhagavad Gita said, glorious time, happy are the Kshatriyas. They get the fighting opportunity. Yeah.
Yes. Come to them unsought.
See the doors of the heavenly planets.
Okay. Yes, I know.
What did you say that we can remind ourselves of regarding the last question? You said it's hard to be always unfailing, but what was able to be reminded of?
Practice.
Oh, okay. Anyways.
Let's say practice.
No, I don't.
You remember what I said?
No.
I don't.
But anyway, I was gonna say that.
Reminded that many have done it before us.
Oh,
Was that?
No, it was something else, but I'm gonna prove my point, which is how can we be unfailing? We can know that actually remembrance is a service, right? So, essentially the Lord is everywhere and everything, all the time. It's eternal, and within it is like the fundamental principle of the universe. So we can actually be aware of that at all times, even though we might be doing all kinds of things. So essentially, there's no time when there is a break. If we see devotional service as an action or a specific thing to do, then actually that action can be devotional service or not devotional service. There is no devotional service in and of itself, but, well, I guess there are certain actions you can categorize as devotional service, but at the ultimate issue, the Lord is everywhere, so.
And that, ladies and gentlemen, right there is Krishna consciousness. It's Krishna consciousness, and that's a wonderful wrap. Don't see it any other way. Otherwise, we'll be failing. Thank you very much. Shri Prabhupada ki jai, Jai Krishna Bhagavatam ki jai, Nitai. Gaur Chaitanya Premanande.
Mahaprasade Govinde Nama Brahmani Vaschare Sarva Puja